Good morning. I've been stewing. The Lord gave me this message probably about 7 days ago, so about a week ago. And I've been stewing on this. And He told me to speak on not being the vigilante. So we need to not be the prosecutor. And then in addition to that, we need to not be the vigilante. And in my mind, I was lumping the two together like they were the same thing. Because to me, I was thinking, okay, well, either way, they're kind of taking justice into their own hands. But that's not true. And the Lord clarified that with me this morning as I was coming home from dropping my oldest daughter off at school. So me and the Lord were having this discussion, and it's not at all the same thing. They come from two different mindsets, and the prosecutor is not taking it into his own hands. He is doing within the system everything that he can do to get his version of justice. What he sees is justice. Of course, then it's left up to the judge after that, but the prosecutor is just doing within the system what he's allowed to do in order to get justice, right? But the vigilante, on the other hand, comes from a different mindset. And the vigilante has seen the system fail and has lost faith in the system and has no faith that they have any effect on the system. And so they go completely break from that system and they create their own, right? So they're operating within their own system. And the issue that we have with that, the biggest thing is that you're stepping away from God's system to create your own. And that shows your unbelief. You're stepping out in unbelief and not faith. You're not staying in faith. You're not pleading your case in faith. And I know that not everybody knows how to do that. But you need to learn. That's important, right? But the thing about it is that stepping out in your unbelief puts you create that system. So that system obviously is flawed. That system is never going to get justice because God is the God of justice. God is the God of justice, and He's the judge. I know that the human system fails. It does. It's the counterfeit. You can't. There's no tootsie footing around that, right? We cannot say that the system down here isn't broken. It is, but it's based off of the original system, God's system. Okay, we cannot step out away from that down here, step away from the heavenly system on the basis that, well, the earthly one is flawed and doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. It's the sin version of the heavenly one, right? We're supposed to operate in the heavenly one, within the heavenly one. We are heavenly beings. We're spiritual beings. We are supposed to be spirit first. That's what we're created to become and grow into. And so when we step out and create our own, we are putting ourselves in God's place. We are perverting and being the counterfeit. We become the counterfeit in those instances where we are looking at our spouse and we see everything that they are doing, everything that is happening to us, everything that they seem to be getting away with. And I say seem to be because they're not. They're not getting away with anything. God doesn't forget. He's not surprised by anything. This is not something that he cannot be surprised. There's nothing that your spouse or anybody can do to surprise God. God is God. Okay, he is all-knowing. He knows everything. And when you step away from the God of justice, when you step away from El Shaddai, what you come across is brokenness. You come across brokenness, you come across sickness, you come across lack, you come across all of the things that we are not supposed to have in our lives, that we were not created to have. Because you stepped away from God. God is the God of healing. All things come from God. All things come from heaven. By his stripes we are healed. We are set free. If we're not living by those stripes, if we step away in favor of our own system, what we are doing is putting ourselves in God's place. And this goes for any injustice. But it's not just that. It's not just injustices. It's when we walk away from him in favor of. So, to give an example, if he tells you to walk away from someone or a job or a car, give up your car, right? What's your reaction going to be? What's your reaction going to be? And that tells about your heart. If he tells you to drop your job, what's your reaction going to be? How quickly are you going to do that? I didn't say it's easy. It's not going to be easy. It's not. The things that he asks us to do are not going to be easy. The instance that comes to my mind where I was getting reacquainted with the Lord. The Lord was teaching me who he truly is. He still is, but he was starting to more deeply while my husband and me were separated. We are not separated now. But to paint the picture, I was the one initially who wanted our marriage done. Okay, so I was the wayward spouse first. Then I was the stander for our marriage. So during the time I was standing and my husband was not in the home, we had a period, and I had a period of time where the Lord kept telling me and guided my steps and told me what to do, what to say. And side note, when we do not do what the Lord tells us what to do or what to say, when we are doing and saying something else, we are stepping out. We are creating our own system. We are breaking out. Okay, that's unbelief. That's fleshly. We are only to say the things that are good. That's it. We are supposed to guard the things that we say. The power of life and death are in the tongue. Power of life and death are in the tongue. Let me find my page. I haven't written down the verse. John 16:13. And I like the Message version lately. I've been in that a lot. But it says, oh, this is a good one. This isn't what I was thinking it was, though. But bear with me here. I'll get back to John. But it's actually Ephesians 4:29. Same version, Message version. But it says, watch the way you talk. Let nothing foul or dirty come out of your mouth, and say only what helps. Each word is a gift. Each word is a gift. We're supposed to watch what we say very highly. But anyways, what we say and what we do. That's why Jesus only did and said what God told him to do and say. Following that line, though, the example I was going to give is my husband and me were separated, and the Lord had told me to give him a set of keys because he brought to my mind that my husband never actually had a set of keys to the house. I don't know why. We never got him a copy of the keys. It's strange. It's strange, but at the time he wasn't living here. He still had a few things here. And my immediate reaction, the place that I went to was, but Lord, we've lost so much already. And if I give him the keys, then what else is he gonna take? Was the thought that was my heart set. I didn't know all of what was going on or all of what caused the reaction, but the immediate reaction was I didn't want to. That was the exact reaction, was like, oh great, you want me to do this? That's wonderful. Yeah, I don't want to. And the Lord told me that I can absolutely not do what he said. But I won't like the picture that I paint if I take the brush from his hand. The Lord told me to give him the keys for a reason. I could not understand what the reasoning would be, but he did. And the picture that he gave me then was a picture of someone who was shaping a bush. And of course you have these big gardening shears, right? But he was showing somebody else. I don't know if it was me or not, but I kind of took it as me, you know. You take it personally when you see these things. When the Lord gives you a vision, take it personally. I mean, unless he says it's for a different person. Generally speaking, I think you start with visions for yourself. But anyways, what happened then, though, was that the person who was watching, or me who was watching, watched for a couple minutes and then thought that they could take the shears, and took the shears and started shaping. And what ended up happening was the shape of the bush, it turned out a shape, but it wasn't the shape that they were going for. It wasn't the shape that the master wanted it to be. Okay? So we can absolutely shape our world. But if we take that away from the Lord and we step out and we do our own thing, it's not going to be the shape that God intended it to be, because it'll be shaped according to your views, to you being God, because you took that away from the Lord. And he will let you do that. He will absolutely let you do that. But you're not going to like it. You're not going to like it. So do you know what I did? I grabbed a set of keys. I pursed my lips. That I'm sure the expression was on my face. And I told my husband that he was supposed to have these. And he was like, why? Why? I'm not taking those. You know, I had to toss them in his car. In his seat. Because he would not take those keys. I don't know what the mindset was on that. I'm not going to try and say, you know, what that was or speak on that. But I made the decision to trust God. And no matter what, I got those keys to him. He doesn't have to see it. He doesn't have to see why. Well, we don't have to see it. We don't have to see why. But what we need to do is learn how to be what we need to be. You know, we're not the prosecutor, and we're not supposed to be vigilantes, but we have a right to speak in court. And we need to learn how to take that properly. And we need to learn how to work the system within God's system. And when we're not operating in love and respect, we're already out of whack. But when you're the vigilante, you're not within the system at all. You're completely outside of it. You're trying to shape your world at that point the way that you want it to be. And you have taken it into your own hands, and you are not allowing God to shape it. And that is not okay. That's another form of, I'm my own God. I don't trust you with this. I am not going to allow you to take it for me. We can't do that. We were not created to carry that. That's when we all get as stressed as we do. When your world is spinning and emotional, it's so emotional, and things will hit you, and they still will. We were created with our emotions, right? But when it's days and days and days, or even hours, even an hour, that's something that you're not supposed to be carrying. You're supposed to take that and seat it and give it to the Lord and take it to court if you need to, right? Present the case, right? You can do that. But in that situation, you're still not the prosecutor. I don't actually know what that would be, but you're just presenting the evidence or handing it over. You're handing it over and saying, this is not okay, and this is why it is not okay. I guess you kind of are the prosecutor at that point, but it's not from a negative standpoint, though. We can't be the prosecutor down here. We're perfectly allowed to go to court, a heavenly court, and present our case. That's different. Again, there's a difference between being the prosecutor or a vigilante and holding someone accountable. Holding someone accountable is completely different. There is absolutely a place for that, and I do need to speak on that because I'm supposed to. I'm also supposed to tell you more about my story. That's a long story. That's a really long story. But we'll talk into that a different time. But just main takeaway, we don't want to step out from God's system. But we can create our own. We're not going to like what we create. It's never going to be God's ideal, what He had planned. Not from our own hands, not from our own mind. We cannot do that. It does not work. And we cannot take a broken system and expect to have the blessings and miracles and perfection come from the broken. It doesn't work that way. Have you ever seen a building explode? Anything explode? It falls apart. Doesn't create a new building. The explosion never creates a new building, never creates anything. It just destroys and tears down. That's all you will do. That's all that broken system can produce. Broken can produce more broken. The reason why we have to walk in faith is so that we can walk outside of the broken system, and so we have access to something that is not broken, so that it will actually produce something that is not broken. But that requires you to heal, me to heal, us to walk with God and heal, and trust Him with everything. God does not allow us to be put to shame. He does not. When we are walking with him and trusting him, he does not allow us to be put to shame. And his favor is our shield. People who are shielded do not get taken advantage of. They don't have things stolen from them. You cannot be stolen from. You see what's stolen and you hold it accountable. Satan has to give you back 7 times that. He has to. He's required to. The thief who is caught has to give it back. The earthly system does fail. The heavenly system never fails. It can't. There's nothing that it can fail. We need to learn how to operate within the heavenly courts, within the heavenly systems, in a heavenly way. And we need to learn and heal so that we can be who we were created to be. We're supposed to be singing and dancing for the Lord and smiling, being joyful. We're supposed to have, so that we can be the example for the world. We're not supposed to live in lack. Lack is not a God principle. Heaven is built on riches. Read your Bible. We have a mansion in heaven. If it was not so, Jesus would say so. It says that in the Bible. He says that in the Bible. And the streets of heaven are paved in gold. That doesn't sound like we're put in a deficit, does it? That doesn't sound like God is like, oh, here you go. You can just have this little corner. You can sit there. Be humble. That's not what that means. By the way, that's not what that means. Oh my. This is so no. We are his beloved. His beloved. In many different formats and many different ways. And we have to learn how to be proper husbands and wives. And children. And children. And people. Proper people. In today's world, there's the Justice League and, you know, a bunch of things that put vigilantes on a pedestal. I don't know why. I really don't. They're really not doing it. Heroes are really not doing anything in that kind of a term other than taking the system into their own hands. That's literally what they all do. And, you know, in this world, we celebrate that. People are celebrating that, you know. Everybody's such a big fan of Iron Man and Batman and you know, everybody else who's on there. There's quite a few who are just, they're heroes, but they're vigilantes that today's society builds into that being a good thing, celebrated thing, right? But we don't need to do that. We have a better system, one that's not broken. And we do not need to step out and create our own. That is not ever going to go well. That's not what we were created to do. We were created to access God's power. We are God's children. Do you know what that makes us? That makes us God's children. The children of God. We're godlings. It's like a gosling, right? A baby goose. We are created to be God's children. So if we're God's children, we are godlings. This is my own unique term. I don't know. I've never heard it anywhere else. I know different mythologies and things have names for half gods, right? There's there's terminology for that stuff, but we are not half. We're not half. We're whole children here. We're Jesus's siblings in heaven, and that this is what we need to step into. This is what we need to access. This is what we need to be walking in. Not the counterfeit. Not creating our own counterfeit. Not fooling ourselves into thinking that we can take all, clear all, be all. We can create. We can. But what we create is never going to be as much as what God is going to give us if we let Him. God will give us so much more than we can ever access with our hands, with our own ability. What we think about, we bring about. What we say we are. What we do affects who we are, affects our world. It affects things. We have an effect. We are the cause. That's the effect, right? There's so much there. There's so much there and so much more that needs to be said, but I think I'll leave it there and press into what I need to say roughly next week, maybe in a couple days. I don't know. I'll speak as the Lord calls me, but if this has touched you, if you've enjoyed this, share, like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.